All right, so if we start fast, there is only one more talk here, and this is Scott Roberts from GitHub, and I looked at his slides for his presentation. Is a lot of like superhero stuff, which is really cool. Scott says that he likes making up titles, so today I'm just gonna thank you for coming here and speaking with us, and he's the speaker at the Security at Scale conference then.
Awesome. So the title is Building Your Own Security Sidekick. Who has a sidekick? Really? That's awesome. I should get one. That's why I built one. If you're not like these guys and you actually want to build one, this is the direction to go. So I'm Scott. I do incident response at GitHub. This is my sidekick. His name is HUBOT. He's actually a shared sidekick. He pretty much is the sidekick for everyone at GitHub. And has anybody heard of GitHub? We make t-shirts, stickers. We also do some Git hosting. It's pretty great. So I'm going to talk about three things as we go through this. CHATOPS and incident response. The specific version of our sidekick that I built for my own, which I call variable threat response. And then deploying and developing against HUBOT. So CHATOPS and incident response. We call CHATOPS basically DevOps plus chat. Does anybody want to take a try at defining DevOps? Yeah. There you go. It's culture. I mean, this is really just the idea of doing essentially programmatic operations. Are you managing your hosts by building them as one-offs? Are you managing your hosts by using something like Chef or Puppet? And really making a programmatic attempt to make operations repeatable and understood by everyone. And so ChatOps is an idea of making this a shared terminal experience. And I explained this to some people, and they looked at me and said, what on earth do you mean? And I'm a big person for analogies. So basically, regular DevOps to me is this. Anybody remember Super Mario? Okay. The idea of ChatOps is, in regular DevOps, you're a one-off person. You're doing things on your own. You're SSHing into a box. Maybe you can have a second player who's sitting there next to you. But you can't really do these things in a collaborative way. So ChatOps is an attempt to turn it into World of Warcraft, where it's you and your 40 buddies, and you're all trying to solve the same problem together. Not one-off, not each looking at your own version, but looking at this whole thing in the same way. So does that start to make sense? This is a new analogy, so I'm trying it out on you guys. Okay, so the question then becomes, why ChatOps? Why would you want to do operations where everyone's working together collaboratively? So the big reason we do it at GitHub is we're geographically distributed. If I wanted to sit down and do a pair programming session with someone, the nearest person's about 30 minutes away, the nearest security person's a little farther. So there's where GitHubbers are at as of this morning. So about 137 of us, 94 different cities. Here's where our security team is. As you can see, I'm that one right there. The nearest person for me is in Chicago. So really, my abilities to work together with people are limited. So if you're going to be geographically distributed, you need to work on different time zones. And one of the things that we can do by having this collaborative shared experience is be asynchronous. We don't work at the same time. We shouldn't have to work at the same time. People work with other remotes. Nobody works at the same time. So you need an ability to kind of time shift how you do things. For us, this is our ability to search through chat. We're multi-device. And so this is the other thing that we get as far as you need to be able to access this, not just time. Your timing can't just be based on when you're at your desk, but also what happens when you're on an emergency and you're out to dinner. So I've been talking about this, but it helps to get a little bit of a picture. So this is what working at GitHub looks like for me most of the time. I apologize. I had to go through and basically blur out everything because it gets a little sensitive. But we sit together in essentially a campfire room and just talk back and forth about what we're doing. But it also looks like this to me a whole lot. I was sitting here, my laptop was up here, and I was going back and forth with some people about an issue we were dealing with. And all this is just streaming through my phone. So the ability to put your ops communications both on your laptop and in your hand, in your pocket, is impressive. So that also goes for just doing notifications. We have it set up so any mention in a chat room of a particular area of interest automatically gets pushed forward. Does anybody want to guess what the word is on this one? Was security? Who'd have thought? The really problematic one for me was DDoS, because I was monitoring for that for a while, and everybody keeps using the word kiddos, which hit the same thing. So the other thing about moving all these operations tools into chat is it hides the ugly. If you've used Nagios for any amount of time, it's not really fun to look at. It's kind of a gross-looking tool, at least in the older versions. And being able to move everything into that chat window means you get a consistent interface for all these different things. But at its core, the thing that's most interesting to me about using this CHATOPS is this idea of doing things together in a way to teach new people. So when GitHub brings on someone new, and you go, how on earth do we do X? Generally speaking, someone's not going to tell you. They're just going to do it in front of you in chat, and you see what the response looks like. I'm going to go through a bunch of different things that we do that for, but that ability to teach in real time is super powerful. So I keep talking about this in an abstract way. What do we actually do with it? So we deploy and monitor all of our servers from chat. I asked one of the guys where the weirdest place he'd ever deployed GitHub as a whole from was, and he said a hot tub in Finland. We use it to monitor the code that we're running. We push errors back straight into chat. They go to relevant rooms based on what the product is. We monitor our systems themselves. This is a pushback where an error actually caused HUBOT, which is our internal bot, to create a alert based on Nagios. Some people get really proud of their commit graphs. Mine has never come close to HUBOT's. We update our status site, hopefully not too often. Funny pictures is probably the thing people first start using HUBOT for. I tried to send a nice greeting this morning to someone. Occasionally that goes really wrong and HUBOT will post terrible things, so you can use him to pug bomb. I did this presentation once and somebody decided to pug bomb me in the middle of it, which just means you get this huge scrolling list of pictures of pugs. So we were doing this for just regular ops stuff, but I thought, what about incident response? So we already manage pager alerts through HUBOT. So it's a really consistent way to do this. Somebody says, take over the pager for me. You issue a little command in chat. Pager alert gets updated, or pager duty gets updated. We can show process lists on all of our hosts just using chat. We can change firewall rules. Who wants to go to a chat room and change firewall rules? Yeah, it's a little, but it's really effective. Yeah. We use it to look up WHOIS information. We use it to get logs and stats. Basically, everyone I know who's added HUBOT to their security team, the first thing they've done is make a Splunk integration. Because the ability for a team to go, we're working on X, and one person just pops in a single line, and the next thing you get is 20 lines of Splunk that are the thing that's actually being talked about. I mean, that's powerful, and that allows you to actually work together when you can make the actual logs a part of the conversation you're currently having. So I actually went and just did a quick Splunk lookup for myself, and that's me actually harassing somebody who's here and will be future harassed. We ban people using chat. It's really convenient to just be on your phone and decide that you need to be done with something and finish the incident response capability by just banning them right there. And we do some other stuff. I'd love to talk to people about that later, but don't really want to make it public. So the whole point of GitHub is to make it easier to work together than to work alone. But the kind of work I do is incident response. So I want to make it easier to respond to incidents together than alone. So this is what led me to HUBOT VTR. So HUBOT itself, just for background, is a node-based chatbot. All the actions are written in CoffeeScript. Any big CoffeeScript programmers? Really? good for you. Not a very common language, but a really easy one to pick up. It's deployable a bunch of different places. And these were the 4 things we were interested in getting HUBOT to do for us. Can we do disk forensics, look up stuff on the network? OSINT has particularly been a good one, and malware. So, you know, that's the VTR. That's where it came from. So we created a couple different modules that made it easier for us to do this. The first one was a code name generator. I'm going to do a little soapbox thing. Naming incidents is awesome. Do people name their incidents? There you go. Because it's a lot easier. Naming actors is a really useful thing as well, because you eventually start to develop a feel for them and their personality and all that. Please stop naming vulnerabilities, especially with logos. But so code name generation has been really easy for us. Whenever we have a new incident at GitHub, the first thing we do, generate an incident name. And from then on, that's what we refer to that incident as, instead of referring to it as that thing that happened on Tuesday where this is just much easier. We built some stuff for geolocating IPs. We do reverse DNS lookups inline using this. We can check for resource reputation. Just generate the links to all these different things that we commonly use. This is an example of using the OpenDNS integration, where you just go, what's up with that? And HUBOT will come back and give you a thumbs up or thumbs down. We generate research links to these common sites. I mean, I don't know. I spent way too much of my time, I feel like, typing in robtext, central ops, and all that. To have a computer do it for me was just a much better move. We have Shodan. Just drop in a single IP address and get back all the Shodan information about it. We can even do malware research using the VirusTotal integration. And passive DNS also via VirusTotal. And then we even use it for generating common pieces of text like Yara signatures, Snort signatures, things like that. And what this really is all about is making it easier. Thanks, I'm glad someone went with that. Is making it easier to make security tasks something everyone can do. It's not really realistic for me to go to my support team and say, you need to look up this piece of malware, determine if it seems bad, and then make a decision on whether or not we're going to block an account or not. But it is realistic for me to go, if you take this hash and put it in to this particular command, it'll come back, and if VirusTotal says more than 10 think this is bad, you should consider it bad. And so this allows us to take domain-specific knowledge and really tighten it up down to a few simple commands that make it available for everyone. So everybody's now saying, I want my own HUBOT for my own little sidekick. So we're going to go through a quick bit of how to deploy and develop HUBOT. 2 easiest ways to do it are either run it on your own machine, your own server, or run it via Heroku. I do both. They're super simple. There's a lot of good documentation on how to do it on Heroku, so I won't bore you with that. There's 3 major components to any HUBOT installation. There's a brain, which is the actual code that's running it, along with the database that stores the long-term, the longer-term memory. There's connectors, where you connect it to a particular type of chat. And there's scripts. And scripts are really the core piece, because out of the box, HUBOT doesn't do a whole lot. You have to build out the ability to do new things. And we're going to talk about that in a second. So CoffeeScript on Node.js, this is honestly where I lose most people. It's really not as bad as you think, and there's some really easy single lines that once you know those, the whole thing becomes simple. So here's a common HUBOT script. We have the documentation up on top. Everybody writes documentation for their code, right? Right, okay. And this is actually really important for HUBOT, because these docs actually get populated into chat. Because the way you find out what HUBOT knows how to do is you ask HUBOT what he knows how to do. And he uses this information to come back and kind of tell you about it. So I was playing around with passive DNS. It's a tool by Brandon Dixon that's probably the best passive DNS I've used on the internet right now. And I decided I wanted to make that work for CHATOPS. So here's the whole script for doing a basic search using passive DNS in CHATOPS. So the first thing we get is just a little thing where we give it a regex, and the regex is just to grab what are the pieces of information we're interested in. So in this case, we want to say, we're looking for a reference to HUBOT, which is the robot respond. We're looking for p total to tell us what we're going to be looking up, search, and then we're just going to grab whatever comes after that as the entity we're going to search for. So you're going to just pull in the key from an environment variable because you don't put creds in code, right? Okay. We're going to make sure it's there, and then we're going to put together the post string, call that, and get back some information as far as the errors and body. We're going to make sure we actually got back data because that gets problematic otherwise. And then this is just taking the JSON we got and parsing it out into a response that eventually gets posted into chat. And what we did here that was interesting is you're able to put the post conditionals on so that you can make it really easy for only say this thing if there's something relevant in there. So for instance, if there's no ASN information, it's not worth mentioning just having a blank spot in chat for ASN. So this goes through, it loops through the whole set of resolutions and ends up coming out with a response at the end. We also have a response if nothing does come back. Make sure we're just closing our else's and giving some error conditions. This is a little bit of the in development, but then at the end, we're simply able to go HUBOT p total search. I gave it an absolutely random IP address of my alma mater. And it comes back with the information, just drops it into, this is a terminal for testing, but it's not using a connector to go out to a regular chat. So, speaking of that, I added a new module today. So HUBOT now knows how to do passive total. If you're a passive total user, you can do that. I also guilted Kyle Kreitz into writing a module for LASTLINE. So now LASTLINE does that. And that was just an example because I started harassing him about it last night, and he got it done by today. So it's that easy to pick up CoffeeScript and write a HUBOT module. And the last real thing I want to talk about that ends up getting a lot of attention when you start using HUBOT a little bit is HUBOT's voice. I keep referencing HUBOT as a he. He is a he. He has a lot of personality, and when you spend enough time interacting with something like this, that happens. And so it's become really important to us that when we write HUBOT modules, they don't just respond with, here's a blob of data, but they respond in a conversational way that kind of fits the idea of having this automated entity. So in the end, HUBOT can make incident response collaborative in a really cool way and puts the tasks and tools in chat. You can find out some more information here. You can find out more about me here. I'm done early because I didn't want to get between you guys and happy hour. So happy to take any questions.
Hi. So you had shown this chat box where you typed in, oh, I'm going to this event and blah, 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 something OS query, and then HUBOT had responded with what OS query was. Where does the intelligence / how does it work to do this out-of-band extra information rather than that direct question response come from?
So in that particular case, that's HUBOT. That's the GitHub internal HUBOT. And so there are some added scripts that basically HUBOT is aware of GitHub. And so whenever a link is posted to GitHub, he'll come through and basically go check out that particular page and pull it back in. So that's really mean, it's a great example of the usefulness of this, where you go, here's a tiny little thing. It's only a few lines of code, but it does make a big impact when you're using that tool consistently. So that one comes up a lot, and it's really useful. So,
does a user have a good way of providing feedback for any given result that HUBOT spits out? So you can say, HUBOT, you done messed up.
Yes, there's a lot of different ways of doing that, including one where HUBOT's feelings get really hurt. I remember when I first started playing with this, I put in something and I typed it in wrong. It was my mistake, and you know, it came back wrong, and I went, you know, dumb HUBOT, and he comes back with, well, that hurt my feelings, which is the personality helping out with that problem. As lame as it is to say, like, that's kind of a user issue more than anybody else. I mean, that's how you build the scripts that go into it. Some people really take a lot of care with that. I haven't, and I'm trying to now because I see that it's really valuable. You know, we have operations scripts for doing big deploys and things like that, and it will be very good if you mess something up of coming back and saying, are you sure you didn't mean to say this? But the thing we don't do a lot of is keep a stateful, you know, HUBOT doesn't remember the last thing you said to him. So that's kind of a pro and con. I choose to look at it as just a very functional programming approach to all this. But it kind of, you can build that if that's what's important, and I think it's a really good approach to take. So.
How much would you say this, like just percentage-wise, increase the productivity of your team? I mean, versus like all these standalone tools and this great thing right here.
Oh, I don't know at this point. I mean, we have gamed out how to run GitHub without HUBOT, and it's hard. I mean, it's really tough. I mean, simply because you can take a 40-step process, write the coffee script to do that, and now it's not a 40-step process anymore. Now it's one thing. And so, you know, if you're going to deploy a piece of code, having HUBOT go, okay, is that code available? Is the deployment environment actually in a state where we can deploy new code to it? Has the code passed CI? You know, checking all of those things first, including, you know, personal documentation and things like that, is game changing. I don't know if I could put a percentage on it. I mean, I can say it takes things that I do 50 times a day that, you know, might only be 10 or 20 seconds, but makes them something I can do in 3. I hesitate to put a percentage on that. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, I built 10 scripts. I know people who've built hundreds doing complicated things, including I saw somebody who actually had a single chat room that just had 2 HUBOTs whose job was to talk to each other. Which was really kind of weird, but super cool and very productive, apparently. So I think it's really all about how much you're willing to put into it. So, you know, a perfect example is, you know, we have LASTLINE support. You know, we can do LASTLINE in it, and we can do virus total in it. It would be really cool if instead I could just put in one thing, and it would give me both results in the same request. It's as far as you want to take it, you can keep gaining, I think. I don't think we've hit the end of what we can get out of it. So.
Hi. So one of the last speakers, they mentioned about the protect the graph within Facebook in terms of their knowledge share for these incidents, and then if it happens again, is that a roadmap item for HUBOT? So HUBOT, have we seen this before given these metrics or whatever? Should I even bother investigating if you can already tell me the steps that we did last time?
Sure. So there's a basic community script called Remember. Kind of a small thing, and mostly it's used to say like remember foo, and it outputs a GIF of something funny related to that. You can also use the exact same script to go, you know, remember this IP address is associated with this incident. I honestly think that that's a more complicated problem that I would want to solve in a more comprehensive way somewhere else. I certainly wouldn't build that system without making sure it had a really easy to use API that I could quickly attach to this. So it does provide, in many cases, a good interface for things like that. What?
Great presentation, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Do you do anything? So, do you have any concerns about using an externally hosted chat service?
Yes.
And do you? Okay, that's it. And do you do anything like two-factor for more sensitive commands?
So yeah, there's a couple different things that we've built internally for handling that. That take a bunch of different approaches. I mean, the best thing about this from a security perspective is we log all of this. I mean, we don't just use the built-in chat logging. We actually move everything to Elasticsearch, and so it becomes really easy. If I go, this deploy seems strange, I can go immediately back and go, who did it, when did they do it, where did they do it from, as far as chat rooms and all that kind of stuff. But over and above that, we have a number of commands that can only be executed from particular rooms. So for instance, you can't redeploy servers from anywhere except one of the ops rooms. You can't redeploy GitHub, the website, except from the team's room that deals with that. So we've been able to limit that a lot. We also do a lot based on who the actual person is. You know, there's a little bit of back-end logic for doing roles. So for instance, if we have a contractor in a room, they don't necessarily, if they issue a command to HUBOT and say, hey, can you do this for me? He'll come back and say something very snarky that I don't want to repeat. But there is the ability to understand those types of constraints and put logic around them to keep them from being problematic. It's a stopgap, but it works.
Any more questions?
Cool.
Well, thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.
Before you all run out of the door to the happy hour, I just have a few PSAs. So first of all, there is a group, a Facebook group that was created with all the participants, and there is where we are going to post the slides for the talks, and the videos are going to be on YouTube. Also, to that group, there will be a link posted to a survey. The reason why we do these at-scale conferences is not only security, we also have other themes that we cover with the series of conferences. It's just like to get the community together, exchange experience, learn from each other, and like get everybody like to build on top of each other's work. And I think that one of the really important things for this process to be successful is for us to get feedback from you. So we are going to send a link to a survey to that group, and please send us feedback on like things that, like what you would like to see. Like that will be the questions and everything. But it's really, really, really important that we get feedback, so we continue to make those meetings really nice. Like I've learned so much today. And if you take the survey, at the end, it's going to give you a code that you can actually exchange for a T-shirt. Like, so if nothing else, you can do it for the T-shirt. It's fine. And I want to thank you, each one of you, for being here, being here the whole day. Our speakers, thank you very much for organizing it, and it was really cool. And yeah, let's enjoy the happy hour.